So what we're going to take a look at now is loading our related data when we send back our activities. And our related data in this case is our user activity. And there's three different ways of doing this inside Entity Framework Core. And if we just take a look at the documentation for loading related data, we have three different options. We have eager loading, which means the related data is loaded from the database as part of the actual query. We have explicit loading, which means the related data is explicitly loaded from the database at a later time. And we also have lazy loading, which means that related data is transparently loaded from the database when the navigation property is accessed. And what we're going to start with is eager loading. And eager loading means that we just need to use the include method when we ask for a list of activities or a single activity. Then we have to say that we want to include the user activity. And what we'll also need to do is use the len include to include the app user as well. And that's what we'll implement now. So let's go back to our code. And I'm just going to open up the list.cs in our activities folder. And inside here, what we'll do is where we're getting our list of activities, what we can do is after the activities, we can say include, and we want to include the user activities. And what we also want to include is the app user as well. So we'll say x goes to x.appUser in this case. And let's just rearrange these. And what this means is that when we go and get our activities, we're also going to go and get not just the user activities, but it's going to go further and actually return our app user inside this. And we can also do the same for our details view as well. So let's take a look at details. And inside here, where we've got our activities, what we want to do is say .include, and we'll say x goes to x.user activity, and we'll need to bring in Entity Framework Core here, and that should be activities, and then we'll say len include x goes to x.appUser. Now what we'll find is that we can't use the find async method if we want to include related data, as this has no accessible extension method except in a first argument of type iIncludable queryable. So what we'll need to do is change this to a different method, and we'll use single or default async. And then what we'll say is that in the expression here, we'll say x.id is equal to request.id. And that removes that particular error. Now if we go and test this, we're going to see a bit of a mess inside our request, because what we're going to be returning is an app user object from this as well. But we'll just go ahead and do it just to see the effects of this. And I'll just click on Get Activities. And we get a 200 OK. We get a warning saying that something went wrong while running our scripts and our test results fail. And if we take a look at what we get back, we do get back an array for the user activities. But if I scroll down and find the one that we just created with Bob as the host, we find that we don't even return all of the user data. And what's happening here is we're getting stuck in a self-referencing loop when we try and return this. And whilst we can get around this and kind of ignore the error in our configuration, it's not the right way to go about this. And if we take a look at our terminal window inside VS Code and take a look at the error we're getting here, we're getting our stack trace here, and what we're getting, if we take a look and scroll up to the first error, so we're getting our server error, and it's telling us that we've got a self-referencing loop detected for the user activity, and it's given us all sorts of problems. And what we don't want to do is return an app user with our user activities, we want to return something different. But let's just make sure that in our get activity details, we can also see the user activities with the user. So I'm just going to copy the ID for the activity we created with an actual attendee and just paste this into the activity details request and click send. We still get the bad request, but we still see that we're at least attempting to return an app user back. And once again, we're getting that self-referencing loop because our app user also has a user activities collection, and this is the cause of the problem. So what we're going to do next is we're going to shape the data that we want to return, and we can do that by using DTOs, data transfer objects, and we'll take a look at that next.